All right. So, hi. Welcome to another live stream from Creative Nomad Studios. It is a beautiful day here today, and sorry, I'm just going to apologize right now. Feeling a little pressure. We have a short staff, a short crew here today, and I have to thank John, who's jumped in to run our live stream for us, which is great. And Steph is monitoring our live feed, which should come up for her shortly because there's a bit of a delay. And I'm just going to let you know also that for today we have a studio puppy in the house. So if you hear a little bark here or there, or you hear a little running, that sounds like thundering dog or thundering elephants. It's actually Kingston. So Kingston is our 5-month-old Shih Tzu. So I want to thank you for tuning in and joining us here at Creative Nomad Studios on our live stream. We are going to talk about color theory for artists today. If you're here, throw down a comment in our live chat and let us know that you're here. Every month, at the end of the month, we have a free giveaway for anyone who attends our live classes and who shares the work online. So today we're actually going to be giving away a prize to someone who attended one of our workshops throughout the month of February. So we will be doing that at some point in time before we sign off today. Today we're going to do part 1 of color theory for artists. So if you have questions throughout, please use the live chat. The live chat should be up on the screen on that side. On that side. If you're watching full screen, you may have to actually take it off of full screen in order to see the live chat. Let us know you're here. Throw down your questions. We do have someone monitoring, Steph monitoring the live chat, and she will let me know if there's any questions.
Yeah, Wendy Story is here actually saying, hi, I can hardly hear.
Miss Wendy Story, is that better? I'm hoping that's better. Sorry, is that better? Okay, so I'm asking
family is here saying thank you for these sessions.
Oh, you're welcome. Sorry, who was that?
The Taveldi.
Okay.
Taveldi, yeah, family.
Sorry, I'm just kind of playing around with my mic here for a minute, and I'm going to have John monitoring the sound. And sorry, I think we're good. Okay, so if you have any problems or any issues along the way, thank you. Throw it down for us. We do appreciate hearing that. Definitely let us know you're here. So if you caught the link or in the description of this video, you will see a PDF and sorry, yeah, okay. So we'll see if, hang on one second. John's telling me something here. What are you telling me, John? Okay, I can't. That's as far as it's going to be. It's good. We're good. Steph is saying we're good on that end. Okay.
Sounds good on
We're good
end.
on that end. All right, we're going to go with it. Okay. So, in the description of the YouTube video here, you will see a link to a PDF, and that PDF is this. It is the About to Create Online Color Theory for Artists. And it is a whole document on color theory. And it is the thing that we're going to be covering across 2 weeks. But at the end of it, at the back of it, is 3 pages that you need. There's this page, which is our color wheel that has our 12 primaries on it. There's a tint and shade page. And there's a hue and saturation page. We will be using all 3 of these in part 1 and part 2. So if you have not, we'll be using the tint and shade and the hue and saturation in more depth in part 2. For today, what you definitely need is the color wheel. So make sure you have that. And then also your primary colors. If you're watching this later on About to Create ABT2CRE8.shop, you can actually buy the color theory kit. and that includes a strip of paints with the primary colors, as well as these printed on a high quality acid free multimedia paper. So we do have those available as well, and that's available for pickup. So we're going to jump right into it. This little strip of paint, I'm actually using a museum paint in here. They have some pretty good true primary colors or easy colors to use. So what I would like you to do is to, if you have your 3 primary colors, first of all, you should know that there are primary colors. And what are primary colors? So primary colors are your blue, your red, and your yellow. And those are primary being 1. And there are colors that cannot be made from another color. So i.e. they are of source. So it's like a whole color. Okay? So when we talk about color, you know, all other colors are made basically from those 3 colors, and plus black and plus white. So if you've not made a color wheel before, this is a pretty basic one, okay? And we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to talk while we do this. And today we're going to just basically talk about this color wheel. But as we do this, we're also going to add color to both the hue and saturation sheet, as well as the tint and shade sheet. And I think you'll notice that around your color wheel, there's numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which are our 12, you know, major colors. You'll see those numbers correspond here on the hue and saturation sheet. So down the side and down the side. And then you'll see them again down the left-hand side of the tint and shade sheet, 1 through 12. So we're going to start, and we're all going to start with the same color, and I'm going to start with red. Actually, I'm not, because yellow's at the top. So I'm actually going to start with yellow, and I don't have a palette, so I'm going to ask Steph to grab me a palette. Because it's really I can't grab paint out of a pot. That's not going to work.
No, I apologize. I set you up there without
so Steph set up for me because I was actually setting up some other things with our live stream,
is this okay?
Just kind of missed it. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So I'm gonna just double check that from my cameraman that you can see that palette in the shot. That's okay? All right, he's telling me yes, so yeah, that's good. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow out, and I'm just going to put a tiny bit of yellow on my palette. Not a lot. Okay? And I'm going to use it full strength. I'm not watering anything down. And we're going to call yellow our 1 color, and we are going to actually just fill it in the center. In the center of your thing. And I'm starting with yellow. If you are using a yellow out of your stash of paints, what you want to be using is a CAD yellow, a Hansa yellow, not a Hansa yellow medium. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to talk about color bias a little bit. In the printout that you will have downloaded, it actually speaks about color bias, and that's really, really important when we're creating our color wheel. And color bias is when I have a primary color that's made by a paint manufacturer, where does it lean? Is it true to its original primary? Or does it lean away? So i.e., if I have a red, does that red have a bit of yellow in it? Or does it have a bit of blue in it? Does it lean to blue? Or does it lean to red or yellow? And you know, is it a cool red or is it a warm red? You know, that we talk about temperature and color. So that's a really important thing when you're trying to mix colors. And you're going to understand why when we get into our secondary colors. So what I want you to do is, it doesn't matter which triangle, really, if you put it over here or over here, it doesn't matter. Just make one of these centers your yellow color. And we're actually going to, wherever that one is pointing, we're going to move it to that color. We're going to point it to that direction. And we're just going to paint it straight along here. So this is going to be part 1, and we're just going to break down color. We're going to break down the parts of color. You know, why is color theory important as an artist? Well, first of all, you know, it helps you to plan your painting. It also helps you to mix things like skin color. Right, Steph? Skin color.
Absolutely. Actually, if I can just for a second,
Yep.
We're having a request to mention which blue, which red. I imagine you would get to that point
Yep.
when you get there.
I am going to get there, so I am going to get there right now. So when we go to red and we go to blue, red, you want to CAD red. I mean, pretty much any paint brand, for some reason the CAD red,
So
not
cadmium
CAD red hue, CAD red, not CAD red medium, not CAD red, but CAD red hue.
So for beginners who might not know, the nickname CAD is short
cadmium.
for
Yes. Yeah, actually, I think they short form them. There was a CAD red up here. Do you know where it went to, Steph?
Mm-hmm.
It went here. So there are a few other colors. The red that I have in here. So this is a Winsor Newton. This is a cadmium red hue. This is actually a really good balanced red. It doesn't lean one way or the other. Same with this brand here, and it when I put it down here, museums CAD red, and you can see it almost looks a bit pinkish. It doesn't feel like a true deep rich red, and that we're used to seeing as a true deep rich red because we're used to seeing a red that has a lot of blue in it, and that it has some depth to it, so it's not true. So I'm going to take my red right now, and I'm going to make that over here, put it right next to my yellow.
How can a person tell when they're at the store and they're just getting started and they can't really tell if it's a warm red or a cool red or a neutral red just by looking at the paint?
You know, there's a funny thing. If you're in the store, and there actually is a way to tell, and it's by taking the sample of that color, and if you can get that color, you know, it's like a paint chip, and if you're in a paint store and you're trying to pick up paint for your wall, if you take that paint chip and you hold it against white, and you stare right next to it, you know, right next to it. You ever do that in school, that little experiment? So it's almost like there's a dot next to it, so you stare right next to the color, and then you move the color away, and there's a reverse color left, and that tells you where on the color wheel it is, because what happens is what shows up is the complementary color. So whatever your complementary color is, if your complementary color leans one way or the other way, you'll know which way that color leans as well. That's why it's really important to understand color wheel and color balance. So I'm going to take this again, and I'm going to just carry it straight over. Outside of that, because it's experience, right? It's looking at a color relative to another color, and that's really what happens with hue. And you know, it's bias is all about what is that color's bias relative to the color beside it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really what it is. So I'm going to get a bigger paintbrush. You know, I always tell people don't paint with paintbrushes too small. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to go to a different paintbrush and just add some color in here. And
I'm just going to collect the puppy.
so we have so what I want you to pay attention to is that I'm not doing it at this exact moment, but what we will do is this red now is number 5. So on these other sheets, if you had that color in your brush, you could do it, but we're going to get these colors out again. What we're going to do is we're going to transfer it into that number 5 box. Whoops. But we're going to do it on this line. Shoot. Don't even know my own thing here. Okay. Ignore me. We're going to put it on this side. Okay, we're going to get back to that. So then we're going to take our last primary color, which is blue. And I'm using right now a cobalt blue. So cobalt or ultramarine blue is where you want to go here. You know, primary blue sounds like what you should be buying. However, in most cases, primary blues will lean way towards the yellow. And then I'm going to show you what happens when you have that color and you try to mix it on a color wheel. So we have these exact paints already done up in a kit. So if you want to, you know, create your own little thing without having to go out and buy a whole set of colors, then that's good for you there. I'm just going to set this blue down. I made this a little too wet. This paint that I'm using is not a brand that I'm used to using, and it's very thick.
Would you like to know what's happening?
Yeah, everybody is. Hang on, I'm hearing fingers snapping. What's that?
I'd like to bring you up to speed on
would you like to bring us up to speed?
Kingston is trying to make friends over there, but it's Beth, so he knows her.
Yeah.
And so it's cool. So that's why we're just kind of like, all right.
Oh, okay. So, you know, we are for those of you who've not been here or don't know our space, we're a co-work space, so we're a shared workspace, and we have our live stream set upstairs in our teaching space, which is really awesome. It's a great space to be in. And anyways, this little puppy who loves making friends and loves running around over here. So we have our primary colors laid down. So what we're going to do when we build from our primary colors is go to our next set of colors, which is, yes, if primary is 1, that would be secondary. So that's pretty simple. Secondary is what? Second means 2. We can count, right? So 1 + 1 equals, shall we say it? 2. I know. And I know this is a really, really basic color wheel here, but I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow, okay? And I'm just going to stick it down on my thing. Actually, I'm going to stop doing it with my brush. And I'm going to take a little bit of my red. And I'm going to stick it back over here. Pull it out of here.
I love that you're doing this basic color wheel. It's so important. And there are so many people who have started doing art without having this basic foundation.
Well, a lot of self-taught people, you know, and if you don't, and I mean, I love self-taught people because honestly, if you're self-taught anything, it means you're a superstar.
Agreed.
No, it's true. It's true. So what we're going to do is we're going to go red plus yellow, and we're going to get to our halfway point. And what we're going to do A lot of people like to say, oh, you know what? Well, red is a stronger color than yellow, so only use a little bit of yellow or a little bit of whatever. And I'm going to say to you, don't listen to that nonsense right now, okay? For the color wheel purpose, what I want you to do, since 1 plus 1 equals 2, I want you to actually take, you know, your little blob of yellow. And this is where we're going to look at those other sheets, because since we're going to mix, we're going to actually make it. And I want you to do an equal amount of that other color. Okay. Equal. And then I want you to mix them together. I want you to mix them together. And it's actually going to be, you know, kind of a pretty orange. Not orange the way you're thinking of orange, but it's a bright orange. Like, it's really bright. Can you see how bright that is?
Actually, it's just below where I can see.
Can you see it now? There, maybe?
I'm waiting for it.
I'm getting a nod from my camera guy, okay, who happens to be my fiance. Because we pulled him out of, you know, his boring life today, and we said, hey, come and do unboring things with us. How's that sound?
John, you're so quiet.
He's thrilled. He's very quiet. So this is kind of, I want it to be, it's bright. It's not pumpkin orange. It's definitely not pumpkin orange. Add a little bit more. Yeah, I think I overtoned. I didn't quite get my mixture right, so now I'm going to get it back in there and get it back down to orange here. Okay. So I'm going to put it there. So that's our two colors. So clearly red, yellow, you know, orange. Pretty basic. We're going to get that orange in there. Okay.
Wendy says she is the queen of mud making.
She's the queen of mud making. I'm going to get you out of mud making, Wendy.
Hear that, Wendy?
I know. I promise. I promise. That's why you're here today. And I bet, you know what? I'm going to tell you why you make mud. And you're going to be like, oh my God, this is why I make mud. So this is number 3. So here's where I want you to now go onto the hue and saturation page and put it in the number 3 spot. There. Just because it's already mixed. It's a mixed color. And then on the tint and shade page, right, I also want you to put it on the number 3 spot. There. Just building it in there. There. Okay. So we're going to make our other, and this is where most everybody makes mud. Well, actually, we're not going to make mud yet. We'll go blue and yellow. So now that my palette is a bit of a mess, I'm going to kind of get some clean yellow.
So on the screen, the red and the orange look the same almost, but when you look at the palette, you can really see that they're not.
You can really see the difference.
Yeah. So, and depending on your screen and the calibration, you may see more of a difference. But yeah, if you look over at the palette, you'll see that Anita made quite a nice orange there. It just doesn't show up as much on the paper for some reason.
Right. So I'm going to take some clean yellow here, just because I want it to be clean. And I'm going to take some blue. We're going to go the yellow-blue side now. Okay. And we're going to take, you know, a glob of that. And we're going to take a glob of the yellow. And we're going to make this lovely, lovely, pretty, little bit more yellow, you know, green. So we're going to make a pretty green. And when you add some water down to it, you can actually see, can you see the color of that? It's pretty.
It's actually below the...
Okay, can you see it there?
Oh, I'm good. We're good.
Yeah, we're good?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go in the, if you've gone in the same spot, we're going to go on, we're going to put this green on our blue-yellow side. All right. And your blue, okay, yellow's not normally the problem. And yellow's very rarely the problem. I'm going to tell you that right now. Very rarely the problem. The problem is your blue. And it has to do with with bias. So there's a really good write-up on bias. I'm going to talk about it briefly. We just chatted about it earlier, but the bias of your paint, okay, so that's number 11. I'm going to actually take my tint and shade page while I have this out here, and I'm going to actually throw this green in here in the number 11 spot. And I'm actually going to throw it on here. But I want you to notice where the 11 spot is on this one. It's way over on the other side. It's opposite to 5. There's a reason for that. We'll get into that later. Okay, cool. So if your blue leans towards the yellow or leans towards the red, and here's your mud. So I'm going to show you something that I did here. We talk about bias for a minute. Okay. So I did this. And this is all these different paints, colors. So this is Galleria, Cad Red, right here, and Ultramarine Blue. Okay. So that gave me this kind of interesting color. When I washed it down, it looked like that. I used golden paint, and when I used golden paint and I did primary cyan and Cad Red, I got this color. And I don't know if you can see that color, but it looks like mud. It looks like mud. And here's museum. These are the colors that I'm using today, right? And there's primary and ultramarine, and there's this lovely, lovely violet color. It's very pretty. That's your pretty purple. Okay? So when you have all your primary colors together, okay, when we mix them together, so if I take a little bit of red, and I'm just going to do it on my palette, and I'm going to take a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, okay, and I'm actually going to add a little bit of yellow into it, okay. What am I going to get, Steph?
Mud.
Mud. I'm going to get mud.
Beautiful mud.
I get beautiful mud. Yes. Add a little more yellow in here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to paint it on my skin so you can see what color it is. You know, it's kind of muddy. Kind of gross. You know.
I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's this, you know. Yeah, it's pretty much just mud. Okay, that's what you've got. All right, so the reason you get mud is because if you're using a yellow that has or a blue that has a bias to yellow, like primary cyan, and you're using a red, and if you're using, and I believe what I used on here originally, it was a pyro, might have a pyro red, which also has a bias to yellow, okay? Then you've got your 3 primary colors that you're mixing together, and you've got brown, mud, Wendy. That's why you get mud. So we're going to get rid of that for a minute. And, you know, you have to, you know, understanding color bias is just absolutely essential when you're dealing with this. So I'm going to pull out my red, get it over here, and I pull out a little bit of blue. I'm kind of messing up my palette here. I'm try and get a clean side to my palette. I'm going to probably have to get Steph to go and get me, look at this beautiful, beautiful purple that happens here.
Let's see if I can type and listen at the same time.
Oh,
well, I was actually just wondering if we had cleared it up for 1D JJB about the different colors.
What's that?
I was just typing and I thought I would ask at 1D JJB.
Oh, that's Donna.
Is that Donna?
Donna.
Hey,
that's
Donna. You were asking about red and yellow, and did we cover the specific type of blue? Versus, she was wondering more about names.
you know what? Here's the
ultramarine,
problem.
cobalt, etc.
You know what? It's like pant sizes. Okay? It's like clothes sizes. Paint manufacturers do not have a standard, and it makes me crazy. It makes me crazy. Ultramarine blue and cobalt blue are your best places to start. Start there. Um, in the student grade paints, and I gotta love them for that. Some of the student brands, Artist Loft, they actually tend to call their paints primary, secondary, but I don't know if any of you watched the gouache thing that we just did, or that we did recently, but unfortunately, those colors are not pure. They always have a bias to them. You know, we all learned how to make mud when we were 4, and then we forgot how to do it, and now we're really good at it again. But I tell you, it's if you start with a Hansa yellow, go to a cad yellow, not cad yellow medium, not cad yellow light, because those are medium and light for a reason. Cad yellow light has white in it. Cad yellow medium has red in it. Okay, so those are just things to know. Start there. Start with a ultramarine. I like cobalt. Cobalt's always a good place to start. You'll very quickly understand the bias of your paints. Understand, like, pull out what you have in your studio right now and mix the red and the blue together. And if you get this color or this color, then what you have is a bias. One of them has a bias. It's probably your blue. If you're using a cad red is pretty consistent across all the brands. Pretty consistent. You know. Museum brand calls their red primary magenta, and it's beautiful and it's perfect for mixing. Has zero bias in it whatsoever. Or it seems to be pretty good. I believe that they call their blue ultramarine. I believe so. Anyways, yeah.
Is that what you're working with today?
Yes, it is what I'm working with today, actually. Yes. Yeah, with this lovely brown on my hand. So, we've got this done. All right, so we have now our primary colors and our secondary colors. So 1 + 1 = 2, got our secondary colors. So now, interestingly enough, if you want to think about it like this, this is one color. This is yellow plus red. So I'm just going to pull some right out of here. Okay, so this is 2 colors. So then what we're going to do is we're going to make something called a tertiary color. A tertiary color is a third color. Tertiary, 3. So this color over here is going to be 2 yellows, right? 1 red. That's how you need to think about it. On this side, because it's leaning towards the yellow. On this side over here, okay, it is going to be, make it not so watery here, 2 reds to 1 yellow. I'm just going to kind of go on to a palette that's not messy. And so I found the easiest way to do that when I'm trying to build it on my color wheel and to understand it is I will actually build my secondary color. I'll take the 2 primary colors that I'm working with, right? And I'm going to build my secondary color, okay? Because I pretty much got about the same amount on here, okay? I've got this lovely, lovely orange coming up here, okay? So that's pretty much the same color. And then kind of on one side of it, I'm going to add some more red on one side of it. On one side of it, I'm going to add another equal amount of red. And that's going to get me over to here. And you can see on here, it's subtle, and when it dries, you're really gonna see it. All right, there's your color. It's leaning right in there. And while you've got it, it's number 4. If you've got the other sheets ready, pull it out, put it in the number 4 spot. Put it in the number 4 spot. Put it in the number 4 spot. You can really see the difference in color here, beside the orange. Okay? We're going to get back to that. It's actually in our next lesson and not here. Not this week. You're going to have to come back next week. So I'm going to take this other side and I'm going to actually make this more yellow. So now we're getting into Pumpkinville. A little bit on that really pumpkin-y side of life over here.
What's the pumpkin-y side of life,
Anita? I don't know. It sounded good. You know, there's this thing about live streaming where you just have to spend all this time, like, talking to yourself.
But you're talking to me and John and all of our friends.
Yeah, all of our friends. So there you go. So now we have primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors. All right, primary, secondary, tertiary. Good. All right, now we're going to jump over here, and we're going to do the same thing with this side. Okay, I'm going to take a stab of blue, and I'm going to take a stab of red, and I'm kind of making a mess here. And I'll mix these guys together. Get myself a nice little purple going on here. Get myself a really lovely, such a pretty purple. So I have this really lovely purple, right? I kind of have it going on here. Same as where I was before. So now I'm going to take that and I'm going to add my red to it. So now I'm going to have that color that is the tertiary color, but it's got more blue in it. Uh-oh, or red in it. Sorry, I just put that on the wrong side. Did you see what I just did there, Steph?
No, because I'm on the delay.
She's on the delay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm really sorry. I just put that on the wrong side. So I now have this, like, really lovely.
Now I'm seeing you do it.
Now you're seeing me make the mistake. Okay, I'm sorry, people. I'll take it back. Okay. Now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to add blue onto this side. And now I'm getting a really, really, really dark kind of purpley color on this side. And I'm going to paint over my mistake. Paint it out. Because you're allowed to paint over your mistakes.
That's a great thing about acrylic paint too.
Oh, isn't it amazing?
If you were doing this in watercolor,
I mean, it kind of looks a little. I've messed it up a tiny little bit because now it's coming through. But I am going to actually throw these colors onto here as well. I'm going to throw this in my number 8 spot over here, since I have it mixed. And my number 8 spot on here. And I'm also going to jump back and throw this color into my number 6 spot on this. And it's kind of a pretty, I really love on the red side.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a real you color stuff. That's kind of in that quinacridone sort of range,
Totally.
right? Yeah, it's totally pretty. So if you remember how we got there, right? This was our primary, and this was half, and this one's got more blue. Okay? And then we go to our red. I'm just going to pull it right out of the pot in a really bad way. I've got one, red there, and I got more red here. I got one red there and one red there. So, if you think about it like that, and this, again, Wendy, is where, understanding the bias of your paint. And you're going to understand it next week when we put together our hue and saturation chart. Because you get to see what happens to colors when you start to damp them down. What happens to colors when you mix them across from each other. So we got one more little side to do here, and then we're going to very quickly talk about a couple of things that have to do with color. So we've got one more little set of tertiary colors to make, and that's on our yellow and blue side of things. So I'm going to pull out some more yellow here. Yeah. But apparently I've made a mess of things here. This paint is really... So what's the hardest thing you find to mix? What's the hardest color you try to mix but you can't mix out there watching right now?
Let us know in the
let us know. Tell me what you have a hard
chat.
time mixing, and maybe I could get you there. So, got some blue, got some yellow. Okay. So, while my color is pure, that was our single. Okay, so now we're going over here. That's going to have one blue. This is going to have two blues to it. And this one's going to have one blue. Right? And then when we get to the other side, this is going to have more yellow. This is going to have, this had our equal amounts. And this is going to have more blue. Yep.
Ronnie Lee, darkening a yellow.
Darkening a yellow.
I'm thinking of a hot air balloon right now.
What's that?
I'm picturing a hot air balloon right now. That's a tough one.
Well, it depends, darkening a yellow. Because, are you trying to, I'm just curious, I'm curious where people would start.
Oh, we got lots of answers to that question you threw out there, Anita.
What's that?
We've got a lot of questions now.
A lot of questions? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I threw them out there. Okay, so I've got my even green, so now I'm going to start making a yellowy green right here. Now I'm going to start making a yellowy green. So that was where I've got more yellow, right? Oops, that one's got more yellow. Okay, so... All right, so there's our yellowy green on this side. And when we add some more blue to it over on this side, okay, then we end up with this really lovely sort of, bluey green color.
So Wendy has trouble with the greens, she's saying.
Wendy has trouble with the greens? Well, 9 times out of 10, what happens is, I'm just going to add these to my chart while I have them wet on my brush to these charts. I'm just adding my number 10 color over here. And I'm going to go back and add my number 12 color. So again, I'm looking at these numbers here when I'm adding them over to my chart. So my number 12. And I'm just filling in these little squares over here. So now it gets fun. Here's where we get to have some fun discussions about color. We have our 12 basic colors right here. Okay? Those are your 12 general basic colors. So now what happens? Everything from here is hue, saturation, chroma, tint, and shade. Big words. Value. Value. What is color value? So those are the things we need to know as painters. What happens? How does it happen? How do we create these things, right? So when we talk about saturation, so when we talk about tint and shade, Steph, do you know what tint and shade is?
Tint is adding white
Yep.
or brightening, and shade would be darkening. Is that kind of the simplest way
to... tint, and I put these in the wrong columns. I should have put them in the middle. I'm going to have to start this over for next week. If you were following along, make sure you put it in the center and not in the side. Jeez. Apparently, I didn't do that. I knew one was in the center. Okay, so yes, a tint is a color plus white. A shade is a color plus black. So we have, that's all a tint or a shade is. So when we say a tint or a shade, it's just strictly that color plus white. So if I was to take any one of these 12 colors and add white, just directly white, various definitions of white. So let's take this one because it's really fresh on my palette, which is this number 12 green that I just created. All right, and now I have to go back to this, which is what I should have done, was put them in the middle like this. Put them in the middle. That's what I should have done. Okay, so I'm going to actually just take this green, and I'm going to take this to the middle. And pull out my white. Pull out a little bit of white here. So various amounts of white, adding a little bit of white to it. You know, I've added a little bit of white. That was a lot of white. Sorry, I lied. Then a little bit more. A little bit more. So you'll have lighter and lighter and lighter tints as you go along, right? It's basically that color plus white. That color plus black is a shade of that color. Those often we talk about that wrong. Somebody says, oh, what shade is that color? What shade of red is that? And that's actually not the correct way to say it. Because it's really what you're saying is, what is that? What is that hue? What is the brightness of it? So that has to do with chroma and saturation. And hue, which is a really easy thing to remember, because hue is like a name. Hue is a name. So red is a name. Hue is a name. So what is a hue? Red is a hue. Something can be a hue of red. Okay? Cad red hue. There you go. It's weird that they've said red, name twice. I was always kind of comical to me. So when you're mixing these colors, right, you take your color plus white is a tint. Your color plus black is a shade. We're going to do tint and shade next week, and we're going to create a whole tint and shade chart. And we do that again when we look at hue and saturation. Now it pays for us to know, if you've printed out your sheet or that book, there will be and I'm going to find it right here on my sheets, there will be a really handy dandy little thing that looks like this. And this helps you understand color relationships. And the moment you understand color relationships, you can stop making horrible greens and horrible blues and horrible everything. Because colors that are here, okay, are triadic. It's called a triadic color scheme. Wow, scheme. All right. Colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, okay, are complementary colors. Those are colors that make other colors stand out really bright. So think about it like this. Think about holidays, if you're trying to remember what complementary colors are. So what colors, Steph, are Easter?
I was going to say red and green. Easter, purple and yellow.
Purple and yellow. There you go. Look at that. Purple and yellow. There you go. Christmas.
Red and green.
There you go. Halloween.
Well, orange and purple. I was going to say black and orange, but orange and purple.
But black and orange.
And black and orange.
Black and orange. And black is a darker version of blue.
Blue.
Desaturated blue. Right? Blue plus primary. So all your primaries together. Right?
Did you show how to make black? It's so much fun to make black.
It is so much fun to make black.
Is there time for that?
So we are going, I don't know what time we're at right now.
We're at 2:51 actually. We're doing really well.
Okay, we're doing really well. That's good because that's where I was hoping to be. So complementary colors. Why do we care about complementary colors? Because when you're trying to create art and you're trying to create a color scheme that really makes one color pop against another color, you want to actually look across the color wheel and see what's going to make that color really pop. You know, when you are actually trying to mix those colors, you know, you can say, if I want a balanced painting, think of, trying to think of a really monochromatic. Monochromatic is all different tints and shades of one color. Okay? All different monochromatic. Solo color, mono, one, right? Down to one numbers. And then when we talk about analogous colors, and those are colors that are beside each other on the color wheel. Okay? So those will be sort of in this 1/3 sphere of that color wheel. Those are colors that are going to, you know, those could be variations. You could end up with a monochromatic painting that has analogous colors in it. Okay? When you are talking about warm and cold, a lot of people take this real hard line and say, warm colors and cool colors. I'm just going to, you know, take it right down my color wheel, and these are warm and these are cold. But warm and cool actually has to do with the relationship of what a color is next to another color. So, pyro red. Color relationships. Warm and cool has to do with a color's relationship to itself or to its own primary hue, to something next to it. So if I take this, okay, and I'm going to take this, I have a golden pyro red, I have a museum, okay, magenta, okay, and I have a cat red. Now, oddly enough, this cad red is a great place to start. It's such a beautiful, solid red color. However, when you're, it's just a great place to start with mixing. You can't go wrong with it. On a, if you're gonna, less expensive side is museum. Okay, it's a quality paint, but see how it feels pink? And I'm not sure how good you can see this. Can you see that stuff very well? So, I'm going to hold it there. Is it still in the shot?
Yeah, it does show up as a cooler,
okay,
kind of pinkier
so
hue.
This right here and this right here do not feel like the same red, because this still leans to yellow. This still leans to slight blue. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if you're going to mix, and this is where color-wise is really important, you're better to mix with 2 biases to blue than 1 with yellow, because what you don't want to do is ever have your 3 primaries. So you're better to mix with this color right here, right? If what you're doing is mixing your blues. So then I'm going to take one more color. Oh, I think I put it out already. And this is Golden's. This is a Pyro Red. And again, these are all typically sold in as primary reds or as, but if you look at them, it's like, wow, okay. So when, somebody was asking earlier when I'm in the store and how do I know what my colors are, which color to buy, which red is red. And you have to compare each one to each one. Can you see the difference?
It's subtle.
Is it subtle
on the screen? Yeah.
It's subtle
on the screen. It doesn't show as warm as it would in
right.
In person.
I'm going to kind of change my light a little bit. How's that?
Well, I'm on that delay, so I'm just...
I'm going to take my light down so that it doesn't, that might change it. So, but that's going to make a really, really, really big difference. Okay, it's going to make a big difference in how you're mixing and what you're mixing with. But start with a CAD. CAD is still a good place to go. If you have to choose a bluer blue, then that's okay. Or a bluer red, then that's okay. You're really safe with the bluer red versus a yellower red, because the blues tend to actually, I find, not be as pure. Yeah, that's my thing. Okay, so somebody wanted me to mix a what color? Sorry, what were all the requests?
Okay, so
we're gonna mix some colors, and then we're gonna come back. What's that?
So Ronnie Lee wanted to know about darkening yellow.
Darkening yellow.
Donna was wondering. Donna said, when I put equal parts blue and red, the red took over. So that's the bias on the red?
Yes. So if the red took over, so that means that your blue probably already leans. If your blue probably already leans to red. So think about that. I'm going blue to red. If both are pure, okay, then the red's not going to necessarily completely take over. Okay? So again, you're going to have to, I'm not sure what blue and what red you're using and what brand.
It's possible if they're different brands and one
has a weaker sometimes if they're different brands, that makes a difference. It's really hard to figure that part out, right? Okay, so I am going to darken what color? What was my color?
Yellow.
Yellow?
Darkening yellow.
Okay, so I'm going to actually jump onto next week's lesson to show you how to darken yellow. Okay? So, actually, we're going to stay here, and then you can figure it out. So, I want you to think about darkening yellow, okay, by desaturating a little bit or by changing the chroma of it. And in order to change the chroma of a color, what we're going to do is we're going to go opposite it on the color wheel. So right now, opposite it on the color wheel is a purple, which I happen to have some on my palette that's still relatively clean. So I'm going to take this yellow over here, and I'm going to try and figure out, how dark do I want to make it. So first of all, just a little bit. Are we making it a little bit dark? Is that what we're doing?
I think we just make it noticeably dark so we can see. There isn't a specific request, so.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to start to take this and darken it down. So what I've done is I've taken this where I'm on this number 7. Number 7 and number 1. Number 7 is equal parts blue, red, or I'm where I have a really nice bright purple. If it's not equal parts for you because your paint is a bias, then don't stick with equal parts, okay? But it should be equal parts is my point. It should be if you have the right colors. So what you're trying to do is this really nice bright purple color, okay? And I'm just going to add a little bit, okay? Just a little bit to this yellow. And that's going to darken it down. So I'm not sure if you can see that. See how that's kind of creating this nice It's definitely not a light yellow anymore. Can you see that, Steph? So
now I can see it.
there. I'm just going to paint it out on a piece of paper and paint it out on here. So that's just darkening that yellow up. Just like that. Now, if that, a lot of people, what they do is they tend to add what?
Black.
Black.
And what do you end up with when you...
And they end up with...
green.
Green. And they end up with, like, these horrible muddy colors. But you know what? Now what I've done is I've created this. And if it doesn't feel warm enough to me, now I can add a tiny bit of, I can go one way, I can add it, make it a little bit more orange or a little bit more red. I can make it a little bit, a little darker, a little more this way. So really what I'm doing to darken it up, if I didn't have this color mixed already, is I would take my white, or I'd take my yellow, I would add a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of blue. And that's how I would darken it up. And then depending on the hue that I wanted to end up with, or the depth, or the making it feel more orange to an orangey yellow, or to a non-orange yellow, that's what you're going to do, is you're just going to keep adding more of that to it. Okay, other question.
Ronnie Lee says, awesome, thanks.
Okay, so I get a lot of this, skin tone. I don't know about you. Skin tone. How many people have a terrible time mixing skin color? Do we have an actual question there that I should answer, Steph?
I think we covered it all.
Okay.
Wendy had mentioned greens, and specifically adding
greens?
White to greens.
Adding white? Okay.
Not entirely sure
so,
how deeply.
So greens. So basically, Wendy, what you're going to do is you want to build, if you actually struggle with greens, is to actually build a really in-depth chart. You could almost break this up into 3 things and take your blue, add a little bit of yellow, add a little bit of yellow, add a little until you actually are at the point where you're at pure yellow. Okay, so you can go that far. And then in order to not make your greens look completely like mud, okay, you always have to go completely opposite it on the color wheel in order to actually give it some depth. Then add white and or black very sparingly, very, very, very sparingly. So you want to make it darker. So if I was to take this green and I wanted to make it darker, I would go add a little bit more red and then a bit of yellow. So I might add a little bit of red to this green. So that's where you want to start playing around. Okay, and when we build our hue and saturation chart next week, you're going to find out. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you this, because this is what we're going to build. So here's my green, and here's my red. So when I've taken this green and I've gone to my red completely opposite on the color wheel, what I've done is I've taken this equal parts, green and red, is my mud in the middle. A tiny little bit of red is this, a little bit more red is that, a little bit more red is that, equal parts is that. So now opposite here, a little bit of green, a little more green, a little more green, equal parts. Okay, so that's what we're doing here, is we're desaturating that color. What you're doing is your complementary color, your color opposite on the color wheel, is killing, essentially is what it's doing. It's killing the color that you have. So you want to make it a little bit darker. So you get to the chroma that you want. You get to the right sort of, oh, I want this. And now I want a whiter a tint or a shade of this. So you first get to that color, then you decide if you want a tint or shade. Also, if you don't have it already in your paint arsenal, please go out and get Payne's Gray. We'll talk about Payne's Gray next week. Any other questions that I can answer on there?
I think we've covered it. Does anyone have any other questions before we sign off for today?
So I'm going to do one thing, because I get asked this all the time. How do I mix skin color? And it makes skin color really quickly.
Sweet.
Sweet. And now that my skin has like so much paint on it, which I need to get off a little bit because I might need to actually, again paint on my skin. So I'm going to clean this paint off my skin for a moment while I'm talking. So I always start with blue. A little bit of blue. Okay? A little bit of blue. Yeah. And I'm just going to pull out some colors. Pull out all my colors. Put my red. Oh, move my tray in. Oh, good. My camera guy is telling me to move my tray in. Thanks, camera guy. This is why we have people here doing these things. Add my yellow here, my red. And I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to my don't need that much. And then I'm going to add some white. So the very first place that I start is just the tiniest bit. I take my yellow, and I add just the tiniest bit of blue to it. Just the tiniest bit. Not a whole heck of a lot. Just to get this kind of green. And I know a lot of people feel like, oh my god, you just added blue to get skin color. Yes, I did. And if I actually paint that on my skin right now, you'll see how kind of greeny yellow that is. And then I start adding white. And I'm going to lighten it down. So now I kind of have this hideous green, I don't know what color that is. Puce. Oh.
I just love that name, Puce.
Puce.
We have an ongoing joke at home about
So
the name
now
Puce.
I'm going to start adding, just off to the side, a little bit of, I'm going to add a little bit of my red. And you can see that now that's starting to sort of be something. Still a little too, a little too much red now. A little too crazy. That red's overpowering. Add a little more white. And now it all depends on the actual color of skin that you have. So this is still feeling a little, always paint it on your own skin. That's my theory. That's how you mix skin color stuff. So I'm just kind of getting in there, getting into that skin color. And now it's starting to feel a little bit more like skin. And then when you want to shade it down, again, don't add black. Don't add black. Add a little red and a little blue. Right, Steph?
No black.
Red, little blue.
No black.
No black. No black. Little red, a little blue. There you go. Skin tone. All right. So next week we are going to take those 12 colors that we made. We are going to make them into tints. We are going to make them into shades. And we are going to build a hue and saturation chart, so that basically what you'll end up with is something very much like this, which really has a little block that you can keep by your studio, in your studio, and go, oh, that's the color I'm trying to make. Oh, I'm going to dumb that down. I'm going to saturate it out by using this color. And we're going to do this with 12 colors, but you can do it with 24. You can just keep mixing and mixing and mixing and mixing. All right, so I'm going to say thanks for tuning in. We got to give away a prize. We got to give away a prize.
We
did. Okay, did you have the name of the winner that I drew earlier? Do you have that name there, Steph? It was that
am
girl,
not sure.
that
The lovely Elizabeth and
yes,
family.
yes, that's who it was.
Yes.
Elizabeth. Okay, so Elizabeth, and this is a great story. I really love this. Elizabeth and her family joined one of our paint nights. Steph did a paint night last week, week
2 weeks
before
ago.
last. Was it last week already? Anyways, so it was husband, wife, 3 children, the youngest being 4. Oh my God, how adorable.
I think they painted
And
through the whole
what's
thing
that?
too. I think they made it through the whole thing.
They
too.
made it through the whole thing. They painted the whole thing. Even the 4-year-old, absolutely adorable. So you guys have won a prize. So I guess you're gonna have to fight over it in your family who gets it, or maybe you'll all have to share it or do another joint craft again together. Anyways, we'll be reaching out to you, Elizabeth. If you liked this, make your own color chart. If you don't have the colors and you do want to, before next week, get your own color wheel. About to create .shop. So ABT2 CRE8 .shop. You can get the little 5-pack of primaries. And thanks for tuning in. Oh, tomorrow night, guys, we are doing something like, holy cow, throwdown tomorrow night. We are doing shifted virtual. If you did Shifted on the street or knew last summer we did Shifted, it is 4 artists, 4 easels, and a timer, and you, our live audience. Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun. Actually, Ronnie Lee, who happens to be on with us today, is doing Shifted tomorrow night. So they start on one canvas, 12 minutes later they shift to the next one, and the next one, the next one. At the end of it, everybody's painted on all 4 canvases. The audience is going to get to throw down some comments and information. Paint me a, I don't know, duck. Maybe. Color. Something. Anyways, we're going to do that tomorrow night live at 7 p.m. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again. And I think that's it. Until then, we're out.